Hi everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder why sometimes having people around makes you sharper, and other times you just freeze up? This new study dives deep into that exact question, looking at how social pressure messes with our working memory. So, you know how when you're trying to learn something new or tackle a tough problem and suddenly someone's watching, it feels different? This research basically asks if being watched, especially by someone you think is judging you, changes how well your brain's short-term memory, your working memory, can do its job. And it's not just about whether the task is easy or hard. For a long time, the idea was pretty simple: easy tasks get better with an audience, tough tasks get worse. Think about a familiar tune versus a complex new piano piece. But they wanted to know if this directly affects our working memory, that little mental workspace where we hold and manipulate information, and if maybe other feelings like how motivated or stressed we feel play a bigger role. To get to the bottom of this, they designed a pretty clever experiment. They got 43 students to play a game called the N-back task. It sounds fancy, but it's basically a memory game. They had to remember a sequence of letters or numbers and say if the current one was the same as the one a certain number of steps back. This task is great because they can easily make it harder by asking you to remember further back in the sequence. Increasing the cognitive load. They tested people in two main ways. First, they played with the difficulty by having participants do a 2-back task, which is easier, and a 3-back task, which is harder. This is what they mean by cognitive load, or CL. At the same time, they changed the social situation. In one setup, conditions were normal, like a regular lab study, but in another, they tricked participants into believing their performance was being watched live by experts who were evaluating their every move. They even had a video feed of the participant on the researcher's monitor and a buzzer for wrong answers. This was all to create a sense of social evaluation. So, what happened? Did the easy tasks get a boost and the hard ones fall apart under the watchful eyes of those supposed experts? Well, it turns out it was more complicated than that. Both when the task was easy and when it was hard, some people actually got better and faster when they felt they were being evaluated. Others, however, became less accurate, but their speed didn't necessarily change in a clear way. This completely defied the classic social facilitation idea that difficulty is the main driver. And what about those feelings they were tracking, like stress and motivation? They used a questionnaire to measure eustress, which is like positive stress or challenge and distress, the negative, overwhelming kind. They thought these feelings might explain why some people did better and some worse, but, and this is a big but, they found that these feelings didn't actually act as the middleman they expected. It seems the feelings they measured were more of a result of how well they thought they were doing, rather than what was causing their performance to change in the first place. Essentially, the environment of being watched, of feeling evaluated, had a direct impact on how people performed their memory tasks. And it wasn't just about how hard the task was. This means that the simple idea we learned about easy stuff gets better with eyes on you, hard stuff gets worse, might be too simple. There are other things going on, especially in our working memory, that are affected by social evaluation. One of the really interesting parts was looking at speed and accuracy together. Usually, you might think that if you're in a stressful situation, you rush and make mistakes, or you slow down to be careful. But here, they found something different. When people performed better under social evaluation, they tended to be both faster and more accurate. And when they got worse, it wasn't a clear speed-accuracy trade-off. This is a major finding for the researchers. They're saying maybe in these demanding cognitive tasks, when you're under pressure, the positive effects don't just make you faster. They make you better faster, and the negative effects don't necessarily mean a trade-off, but a general dip in performance. They even suggested that future research could use more advanced models to look at this speed-accuracy relationship more closely. Now, every study has its limitations, and this one is no exception. The researchers themselves point out a few things. Firstly, the N-back task, while common, might not be the perfect measure for working memory on its own. They also mentioned that the way they manipulated cognitive load, the difficulty of the task, might not have created a big enough difference between easy and hard for everyone. And a really important one, a lot of the participants were psychology students, and most of them were women. This means we can't be totally sure these results would be the same for everyone, like people in different fields or different genders. But here is the cool takeaway, the fact that they used a really strong setup to create that feeling of being evaluated. And they saw physiological changes like increased electrodermal activity. That's a good sign they actually created that stressful, evaluative environment. So, what does this all mean for you and me? It means that when you're in a situation where you feel evaluated, it could really impact your ability to think clearly and remember things. This isn't just about taking a test, it could be during a job interview, a presentation, or even when you're trying to explain something to someone important. The traditional advice of just practice the task until it's easy might not be enough if the social environment is the real game. Changer. The researchers suggest that future studies should look more at why some people thrive and others struggle under evaluation. Are there personality traits or maybe even specific ways we appraise a situation that determines if we see it as a challenge or a threat? They even pointed out that measuring feelings after the fact might not be as useful as looking at physiological signals or implicit measures to truly understand motivation. This study is a great step in showing that the social world isn't just a backdrop to our cognitive lives. It's an active ingredient that can change how our brains work in ways we're only just beginning to understand. What do you think about these findings? Have you ever felt your performance change drastically when someone's watching? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more science stories, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into the fascinating world of psychology. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.